Here we are, guys, in part 21 of this story. What if Naruto was smarter than he appeared to be in the manga? What if he resembled his father more than his mother, both physically and psychologically? Naruto is wise and powerful. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now, let's begin. Naruto sighed in relief as they finally made it back to the village. It was always good to be back home, especially after a mission such as this one. S-rank missions always got his blood pumping, but the aftermath was equally exhausting, more mentally than physically. Come to think of it, since they fought two S-rank nin, would that constitute this mission S-rank? His train of thought was interrupted by someone nudging him in the side. Kakashi was looking at him with an eye smile. His voice had a teasing tilt to it as he spoke. "Ryo, for your thoughts?" Naruto frowned as he looked to the ground. "Nothing of consequence, yet. Let's just report to the Hokage and get this over with." Kakashi turned his eyes back to the front after a moment, but his thoughts kept going back to the battle. Never in his life before had he seen a jutsu that was so devastating, and never before had he seen someone do a jutsu of that scale done by a single person. But perhaps, that is what Minato-sensei had in mind, didn't he? Kakashi had always believed that Naruto would eventually surpass his old man, but to think he did so at such a young age. There was still so much potential yet to be explored. It frightened him to even speculate what Naruto would be like when he reached his prime. As per protocol, they dropped by the hospital to hand over Kakuzu's body for autopsy. In the Hokage's office, Tsunade addressed them for the post-mission debrief. "Good work everyone. And it looks like sending you was a wise choice, Naruto. This marks your second successful mission as a leader. Good job." Naruto gave a nod in acknowledgement. "This mission marks a significant victory of ours against Akatsuki, but don't relax just yet. There's still work to be done." Dismissed. Naruto eased out of attention and turned to exit the office. Right now, he just wanted to enjoy some hot water bath, preferably with his wife. He saw Shikamaru walking away with his team, heading for the bridge. Turning, he saw Haruto walking up to Sakura and talking to her. Sakura responded with a smile and they walked off, likely heading for a post-mission meal. They seemed to be doing that quite frequently, he mused to himself. A hand draped over his shoulders from behind, and a whiff identified his company. "So, are you going to tell me about it?" Naruto gave the man a glance out of the corner of his eyes. "About what? About how you managed to complete the Rasengan?" His lips twitched. Maybe, in time, if it weren't for his mask, Naruto would have thought that Kakashi was pouting. "Come on, don't tempt me like that. I don't know Kakashi. I thought a genius like you would have figured it out by now." Playing on someone's pride wasn't something Naruto liked to do, but he wanted to be left alone right now, and Kakashi was annoying him. But Kakashi was not just anyone. Giving one of his iconic smiles, he retorted. "If I had figured out, you would have known." Damn. That was true. Kakashi's loyalty to his father ran deep. "I would like to know as well, Naruto." Naruto stifled a groan as Yamato joined them. What was this? The Jonin lounge. He raised an eyebrow towards the nin, who just gave a smile. For professional curiosity. Naruto released a deep sigh of exasperation. "You won't leave me alone till I tell you, will you?" Kakashi cheerfully responded. "Nope. Ever think about using clones?" Kakashi's demeanor changed in an instant. "Eh?" Naruto continued to walk, with the two Jonin walking with him. With any luck, by the time he finishes explaining, he'll be home. Rasengan is an A-rank jutsu, the height of chakra shape manipulation. It can already do a lot of damage by itself. But combining that with nature transformation? Nearly impossible. It's like, how do I put it? It's like trying to look left and right at the same time. He paused, giving the two time to digest what he said. Kakashi gave a slow nod, going over the explanation in his head. "I can see that." Yamato was rubbing his head guard with a finger. "That's quite an apt analogy." Naruto nodded. "Forming the Rasengan while adding my affinity to it was perhaps the hardest part of it. Initially, I thought it would be rather easy, given the Rasengan's self-sustaining nature." That caused Yamato to blink. "The Rasengan is self-sustaining?" "Oh yes. Once the jutsu is ready, it will keep spinning in your palm until you either use it or forcefully disperse it." Kakashi mumbled in agreement. "It's the reason why it's superior to my Chidori. Consumes relatively less chakra and concentration to maintain." Naruto nodded. "Exactly, and that is what I tried. I thought that once the Rasengan becomes self-sustaining, it wouldn't take much effort to shift my focus to adding my affinity." He scoffed, remembering the failure. "Easier said than done." "Isn't that what you did though? Against Kakuzu, it looked like you added the wind after you formed the Rasengan," Kakashi pointed out. Naruto shook his head. That I did, but the process is fundamentally different than you think. As I said earlier, it's like trying to look left and right at the same time. Which is why I thought, why couldn't I use a shadow clone to look in the other direction? That left Kakashi floored. Was it that easy all along? Then again, only Naruto has the power and skill to use the shadow clone jutsu like that. I can't do it, and even if Minato-sensei had known, it took me about a week to get it right, and that is with the shadow clones. And 2 months to form the Rasen Shuriken by myself, without it exploding in my hand. That brought up the 2 men short. The Rasen Shuriken exploded in your hand? Naruto winced, remembering the very close call he had had. A thin layer of chakra is needed to stabilize the Rasen Shuriken. I didn't know it at that time, so when it went out of control, the chakra feedback and recoil nearly tore up my arm. I managed to flash away just in time. He conveniently failed to mention that because of the backlash, Naruto had been unable to mold chakra in his arm for the next 2 days. After that, Jiraiya made it a rule for him to use shadow clones to experiment with potential A to S rank jutsus. He stated that if Naruto had the chakra to spare for 500 plus shadow clones, then there was no way he should be compromising his safety. Shadow clones were perfect to experiment. They can use jutsu, and in case of a failure, harmlessly pop and send the information back to the original. No harm done. Yamato exhaled slowly. Then we should be thankful for your ability to use Hiraisen. It wouldn't do for you to die just because a jutsu went wrong. Naruto gave a solemn nod. Yeah. That would be the height of embarrassment. The 3 of them walked in silence after that. Kakashi was mulling over what Naruto told him about the Rasen Shuriken and running ideas in his head, and Yamato was wondering as to why the Hokage didn't put Uzumaki Naruto in Anbu. Such a shame, because from what he had seen when he had worked with him, Naruto certainly was a very capable shinobi. With Anbu training, he would have been even better. And the Anbu would have seen a rise in the success rate of their missions. An SS rank shinobi in the Anbu, capable of infiltration at the highest level, and escape without anyone knowing better. Shame indeed. Naruto sighed in relief as he finally spotted his house in the distance. Now, if you two will excuse me, my wife is waiting. A sly look crossed over his face. Unless you want to deal with her? Kakashi was gone as soon as he finished his question, while Yamato was a bit more polite. Maybe some other time, Naruto. Good evening. With that, he left in a sunshine. Naruto smirked and opened the gate, venturing into the house. I'm home. The sound of footsteps came from outside as his wife walked in from the backyard, a towel wrapped around her frame. Naruto withheld a disappointed sigh. Was it too much to ask for some time with his wife in the jacuzzi? Temari's eyes lit up when she saw Naruto back home. Welcome back. Judging from what I can see, the mission went well? Naruto smirked and nodded. Oh yeah. I even conducted a successful field test of one of my new jutsu. Worked like a charm. Temari came to stand in front of him, hands folded under her chest. And when am I going to see it? Naruto sheepishly rubbed the back of his neck. I fear if I use the jutsu in one of the training grounds, Tsunade would have my head. Temari's tone turned curious. It's that bad? Naruto nodded. It's a one-hit kill for anyone who comes into contact with it. Now both of her eyebrows were raised. What kind of jutsu is it? S rank, Futon ninjutsu. Temari smirked as she turned to go upstairs. Oh, now you just have to show me it. You can't refuse, mister. A resigned sigh. Yes, dear. He followed Temari upstairs to gather clothes for his bath. As soon as he entered their room, he almost froze in his place when Temari dropped her towel, giving him a full view of her back, her slender waist, perfect hips, and mile-long legs, and started rummaging for fresh clothes in the closet. Only one thought crossed his mind as he forced himself to move and not stare like an idiot. I'm a lucky man. Temari conversed with him as if dropping the towel in front of her husband like that was a completely normal occurrence. How did your team do on the mission? Naruto paused in his removal of clothes and replied in a tone that conveyed long suffering. Not too bad, but Shikamaru has to understand that not every battle can be won with strategy. He still hasn't moved beyond his clan jutsu, which greatly limits what he can do. Those Nars have a really bad habit of sitting and playing shogi all day and calling it training. What of the others? I don't know whether to fault Ino or not. Her fighting depends almost completely on the teamwork of Ino Shikacho. Outside of that, she's barely competent as it is, aside from being a sensory ninja, and Kuji needs to learn not to throw temper tantrums like a child. He's a goddamn chunin now, and should act like one, Naruto said while wrapping the towel around his waist, scowling a little as he recalled how easily Hidan had riled Kuji up. Temari finished putting on a loose tank top and mid-thigh shorts. That bad, huh? Naruto scoffed. That was a heavy understatement. Shikamaru's plan went out of the window as soon as the fight started. That team is not ready to go up against A ranks, let alone S ranks. Tying her hair in a loose ponytail, she idly argued. Aren't you being too harsh on them? Giving a pointed look to his wife, he answered. We don't have time to be soft. We don't know how many Baiju Akatsuki already have under their control. He looked out of the window, seeing the setting sun on the horizon. I feel that we would be going to war sooner or later. Temari's eyes held alarm as well as caution. Another shinobi world war? Naruto looked at her, seeing how her frame was tense. I don't know, but whatever this gut feeling I have is, I can tell it isn't anything good. Naruto pondered over his talk with Temari as he sat in the hot water. To be honest, Team 10 was not completely at fault. Not everyone could be a genius like him, and took time to get stronger. Besides, it was just their bad luck that they had to fight two shinobi who held more resemblance to zombies rather than humans. Kakuzu was a tough fight, and had Naruto known about his hearts he would have used Rasen Shuriken in the first place before he spat them out. Still, beggars can't be choosers. Hopefully, Shikamaru would find solace in the fact that Asuma's killer died a horrible death. Jiraiya had warned him, and he had speculated as well, that as an organization, there had to be a leader. And an organization like the Akatsuki, which comprised fully of some of the most dangerous shinobi in the entire nations, the leader had to be a step above them all. After all, only the strongest gets elected as the leader, and Naruto knew that at some point in time, he would have to face that leader to bring down the organization. Other than that, there was also the matter of mastering the power he had at his disposal. Kurama had wanted him to complete the training of his chakra on the training trip, but most of that time was spent on creating and mastering Ninjutsu. He thought he was pretty formidable, and Kurama's chakra made him even more so, able to match a sage at full power. But Jiraiya had warned him after their final fight. There is always a bigger fish in the water. Now that he had some time, he could finally start doing some of the things he wanted to do in the village that were long overdue. Starting first, he needed to finish the seal to free Anko from Orochimaru's curse mark. The next day, he approached his old sensei and told her what he was doing. You are doing what? Naruto nearly rolled his eyes at Anko's exclamation. I'm trying to figure out a solution to your curse mark. If you just let me check it for myself, I would have a better understanding than a second-hand report. Anko looked at him like he was out of his mind. Not that Naruto minded the comparison. If he was going to tackle this problem, then he would definitely need something insane. You really think you can do it? Naruto pursed his lips, mentally frowning at the hope she desperately tried to hide behind indifference. The man himself ran away from our fight. What makes you think I won't be able to figure out his seal? Of course, Anko being Anko, she latched onto the first part of his answer. She cheered, complete with a fist pump. Hell yeah! Way to go, Gaki. Naruto smirked, feeling his ego inflate. I know. So, will you let me do it? At once, the cheer disappeared and exhaustion took its place. Bone-deep exhaustion. She didn't physically slump, but Naruto could see the weight of the burden she had been carrying for years. Orochimaru's departure did a lot more damage than what he previously understood, and once again he found himself cursing the snake. If Jiraiya-sama couldn't get rid of it, what makes you think you can do it? She was trying to diffuse the hope that had risen again. PFFT. Jiraiya is nowhere close to where I am. I am the person who figured out the Hiraishin when I was only 12 years old. I am the person who completed Yondaime's jutsu and even the Yondaime and Jiraiya himself couldn't. If anyone can remove your seal, it's me. Anko chuckled, shaking her head. I don't know where you get that confidence, kid, but go ahead. One more try couldn't hurt. Naruto gave a hurt look. Have some confidence in me, sensei. Sure. Later, Naruto wrote down some notes in his diary, referencing his study with Jiraiya's notes and from what he had felt when he had intricately checked Anko's seal. He had factored the Sanin's notes plus his speculation of what resided in the seal. It was clear that the curse mark was a very special type of sealing array meant only to store something. No matter how intricate, its foundations lay in the Fuinjutsu of storage seals. Jiraiya had written during his own study of the curse seal that the mark was comprised of 3 parts. This first part, the one Jiraiya marked down as unknown, was something that they could only identify the function of. It was highly chakra reactive, but at the same time, not chakra. It was also the part that was sensitive to powerful negative emotions. For the time being, Jiraiya had deemed it an unknown variable. The second part of the array contained what they both believed to be Orochimaru's chakra, given how corrupted and foul it felt. Its function was to empower the unknown variable. The third part of the array was actually locked and held a high quantity of the unknown variable. Both the seal masters had speculated that it could only be activated by a key held by the snake Sanin. Naruto had remembered the retrieval mission, the coffin in which Sasuke was put. After getting out, Sasuke's curse mark was significantly more powerful than before. which lead to the conclusion that the last part of the array unlocked a power boost. But because the activation of the seal triggered negative emotions, it, unfortunately, ate away at the sanity of the person. The problem was identifying the unknown variable. Without it, finding a way to remove the curse mark was all but impossible. Naruto put the pen down and closed his eyes, resting his chin on his hands. The unknown variable was the key to access the power of the cursed mark. Or rather, it was the power of the curse mark. The mark was activated by negative emotions, which then triggered the release of the variable. But there was no way to connect a seal to emotions, given how chaotic and ever-changing they were. It would take more than one lifetime to map the complete scope of human emotions, and a complete mastery of Fuinjutsu to create a seal to avoid rejection of the emotion upon the mark's activation. Whatever it was, it could perceive negative emotions, and act upon them. And there was no way that the unknown variable was simply the Sainin's chakra. Chakra transfer was a delicate science, and the human body simply could not accept foreign chakra without it being filtered by Iryo Ninjutsu. It would be a complete rejection on part of the recipient. It was not chakra, but something that empowered chakra, boosting the body's capabilities by a significant margin. And it was something that the body could accept without crushing it on itself. Or at least, 1 in 10 people could accept. But what was it? What was potent enough to empower regular chakra, and make it even stronger? For the umpteenth time, Naruto mentally went over his fight with Sasuke, trying to find something that would give him the answer. From the start of the fight, Sasuke had been performing beyond what he had been capable of, thanks to the curse mark. And he matched Naruto blow for blow. Naruto had even started to overpower the Uchiha until Sasuke unleashed the full power of the mark, which meant access to the complete potential of the unknown variable. It was then Naruto found himself on the defensive, enough to draw upon Kurama's power. Eyes snapped upon in realization. Naruto shot to his feet, hands banging on the table, for he simply couldn't take the shock while sitting down. There was no way it could be that, but the parallels were too prominent to miss. Naruto had to resort to Kurama's chakra because Sasuke started to overpower him due to being empowered by an unknown variable, or rather, unknown energy. It boosted his chakra potency and physical abilities beyond the limits of the human body. Naruto had to resort to Kurama's chakra because Jiraiya started to overpower him due to being empowered by a, at that time, strange energy. Strange energy that boosted chakra potency and physical abilities beyond the limits of the human body. Realization struck him like a hammer to the head, and Naruto found himself nearly vibrating on the spot. Fucking snake. The seal held natural energy. It had two. There was nothing else that could enhance a human like that. Naruto could be wrong, but he was 99 that he was right. And the seal that supposedly held Orochimaru's chakra, which not only perceived and identified negative emotions but also react to them. React as in, activate to save the host. Chakra was not that sentient, not that intelligent. To perceive and react to emotions to a level such as that, Orochimaru would have to insert a functioning brain of all things. His mind corrected him. Not insert a brain, no. Insert a soul. A memory came to the front of his mind. His conversation with Kimimaro. Orochimaru-sama has already obtained the immortality jutsu, something that only he understands and is capable of. Suur. But I fail to see what that has to do with Sasuke. Immortality doesn't mean that the body will remain, only the soul. His soul is immortal, and to house that immortal soul, every once in a while, a new flesh is needed. The answers were with him for the whole fucking time. Almost in a frenzy, he took out his pad and contacted Jiraiya. Jiraiya. Answer this instant. It took almost a minute for the sage to respond, and Naruto considered spamming messages just to do that. J. What is it, brat? N. I know what the unknown variable in Orochimaru's seal is. I finally identified it. J. You better not be fucking with me, brat. Out with it. N. It's natural energy. It was right in front of me the whole time. J. How sure are you? N. 99%. Tell me, what else can boost the chakra potency and physical ability of the person? The reason behind the low success rates of the curse mark is because only those people could accept it whose bodies were strong, or just strong enough. It's not true sage mode, but a cheap version of it. Orochimaru must have access to Shinjutsu from somewhere. J. Fuck, you're right. Ryuchi Cave is another place besides Mount Myaboku where Shinjutsu is taught. Somehow, Orochimaru must have figured out how to seal natural energy in a seal. That, or he figured out a seal that could passively draw in natural energy, ready to use at a moment's notice. N. And I also know what is contained in the second array. It's not the snake's chakra, it's a piece of his fucking soul. Orochimaru's goal has always been immortality. The silence from Jiraiya's end put him on an apprehensive edge. He was almost out of patience when Jiraiya's reply came to him. J. What proof do you have? N. His henchman told me himself years ago. Immortality doesn't mean the body will remain, only the soul. Every once in a while, Orochimaru needs a new body. That is why he branded Sasuke. The curse mark not only gives a boost to the host, but it also degrades their sanity and makes them susceptible to possession by Orochimaru. It acts as a gateway to him, right into their bodies. J. Start working on a way to remove her seal ASAP. Given how many years ago Orochimaru applied the seal on Anko, it's likely an older version of it, less refined and probably more prone to being removed than the newer versions. I'll talk with you once I'm back in Konoha. Well done, Naruto. We'll speak later. Naruto put down his pen, not wanting to believe that he had hit the nail on the head. But the facts checked out, and the speculations were logically backed up by solid evidence. Now that he had figured out the curse mark, it was time to remove it. The next morning found one of Naruto's clones heading into the woods surrounding Konoha. The original had stayed back at the house to keep working on a solution to the seal, so he saw fit to send shadow clones out to do other jobs. C1 found himself going 10 kilometers outside the village walls, heading for the coordinates the original had checked out years ago. Hopefully, those safe houses would be in one piece. The original had been very clear about the job. Install the special kunai at every safe house for easy accessibility in case of an attack. Prepare the safe houses in case of an emergency with materials like first aid, emergency ration, and weapon kits. Reaching the first safe house, he was inwardly relieved to find it relatively intact. The inside was covered with dust, and it was empty. There was nothing there, not even a closet. This suited him perfectly. Taking off the scroll, he unsealed everything he needed to set up and got to work. After all, there was only one shadow clone doing this work, and there were 8 others he needed to tend to. He sighed, even as he began setting everything up. Prime took too much advantage of his shadow clones, letting them do the grunt work instead of himself. The least he could do was send more clones and make his job easier. Don't complain. It's distracting me. 2 clones popped right beside C1, who looked a little relieved. Good. Now I can finish this faster. Thanks, Prime. But Naruto was no longer concentrating on what his clones told him. His excitement hadn't allowed him more than 4 hours of sleep, and so he had to leave Temari's embrace and start working on the solution. He had been awake since 3 in the morning, and it was 20 minutes past 7. After 4 hours of brainstorming, he finally had a rough draft of the removal process ready. Simply put, he was planning to trick the consciousness of Orochimaru to move away from the host. Kakashi used Fujihoin to seal the mark on Sasuke back when they were Jinan. Naruto knew that the hand signs of the seal used in reverse would be the Kaihoin. The problem was, Naruto didn't know what would happen if he simply used the evil release method. Either the seal would be undone and Anko would be free, or the soul piece could take over her completely. How to trick the mark though? Naruto muttered, tapping his pen against the table. The mark reacted to negative emotions, but for all of Anko's craziness, she had kept the mark from activating all these years. Her hatred for Orochimaru was more than enough to activate the mark, but to trick it into moving. The mark will respond to the host who drowns in negative emotions. If I can somehow create that and form a connection, I might be able. It came to him after a few moments. He did not need Anko to activate the curse mark for him. That could be a disaster in itself, seeing as Anko had never used the mark and had no idea how to control it. But he could use Kurama's chakra to draw the attention of the snake's consciousness. The demon's chakra was saturated with hate for humanity, and therefore should be more than capable of attracting the vile snake's interest. Add in a catalyst to force the seal from the body, a blocking seal to prevent it from backtracking. Yes, he could work with that. The catalyst will have to be blood, for blood was a powerful medium in Fuinjutsu. Seals drawn by blood were completely different from those drawn by sealing ink. Anko's blood would power the sealing array, and coupled with her positive emotions, the curse mark would be forced to leave the body after it falls for Kurama's chakra. Naruto put down the pen and rubbed his face with his hands. This was going to be one heck of a seal, but it will take him a few more hours to draw the first diagram, coupled with making the required double and triple checks for corrections. I need a break, he muttered as he stood up and walked out of his study. Heading to the kitchen, he decided that he might as well prepare breakfast. Temari was bound to come in a few minutes. Said woman found herself waking up without her husband. Her eyes fluttered open, hand patting the empty space beside her. Frowning slightly in confusion, she turned to see the space empty and no sign of Naruto. Now fully awake, she sat up on the bed and looked around the room. The incoherence of the morning fizzing her brain a little. Getting on her feet, she wobbled into the bathroom to wash her face. Opening the door, her nose was assaulted by the delicious smell of pancakes. Walking around, She found Naruto expertly flipping the pancakes on the pan and piling them onto a plate. "Good morning, G. Good morning. You got up early?" Naruto shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Anything I should know about?" Concern seeped into her voice as she came to stand beside him. Naruto waved her worry away. "Nothing bad. I was just working on a way to remove Anko's curse mark. I just figured out Orochimaru's seal last night and got excited as all." Temari's eyes widened. "You figured it out?" Naruto smiled and flipped the last pancake before setting it on the plate. "Yep. The bastard's surprisingly clever in his work, and predictably disgusting." "So you're removing it today?" "Oh no. I still need to write down the array for that, and that's gonna take me hours. I'm just taking a break." Temari kissed him on the cheek. "Good thing I didn't have to drag you out of the study." Naruto gave an imperceptible pout. "I'm not that bad." Temari was unconvinced. "Uh-huh, and how long have you been awake?" "Damn. Since 3 in the morning." Temari crossed her arms and glared at him. "You haven't slept at all." "I did. I slept for a full 4 hours." "Doesn't count. You need at least 6 hours of sleep at this age." "Oh come on, you just made that up. Just for that, you're only getting 2 pancakes." Now it was his turn to glare. "That's almost nothing to me." "Yeah? Well, deal with it." "Why Naruto? It's been a long time since you came so early in the morning." Naruto savored the flavor of his ramen for a moment before answering. "Yeah. I had a lousy breakfast today." Ayame frowned from behind the counter. "Everything alright with Temari-san, Naruto-kun?" He was quick to reassure her. "Oh no, nothing like that. Just a small matter which I'm already serving punishment for." The waitress smirked coyly. "Eating your favorite food for breakfast doesn't quite sound like a punishment to me." Naruto glared at her. "I don't need you to make it worse." 5 bowls later, Naruto was walking in the streets with hands in his pockets, having no particular destination in mind. Most of the shops were already open, but the crowd was sparse at the moment. The morning air was slightly brisk, which was perfect for him. Cool air did wonders for his mood, and while he liked going fast, doing every once in a while was a refreshing change. Before long, his feet took him to the Hokage's office. "Huh? Did he really visit here a lot?" Knocking on the door, he waited for Tsunade's answer before entering. "Good morning, Bakken." Tsunade's eyes showed surprise, but she was happy to see him. "What's got you so chippy?" Naruto smiled as he came to stand before her desk. "Nothing. I was just taking a morning stroll and I found myself here." "Oh, and why is that?" He shrugged. "Don't know. Just wanted to talk to you." "About what?" He took a minute to answer. "First things first, when can I get my bounty?" Tsunade clasped her hands as she leaned back in her chair. "Date or a bounty was given to you in 3 days' time if I recall correctly. This should be no different." Naruto nodded slowly. "Right. Secondly, how's Kabuto?" Tsunade scowled at the mention of the nin. "Bastard was surprisingly tough to break. He can heal any damage done to him with his cellular regeneration, and it seems that Orochimaru took steps to ensure that the mind of his subordinates is protected even from mental attacks. Inoiki only managed to break through the defenses 2 days ago, and all we've learned is that Orochimaru planned to take Sasuke's body soon." That was bleak. "Nothing else? Anything about the information of his bases or something?" Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Why are you so interested in what he has to say?" Naruto raised his hands up in a non-violent gesture. "Hey, I'm just looking for topics to talk about." Tsunade eyed him with suspicion for a moment, before relaxing once more. "When I deem it important, you will know." Naruto nodded in understanding. He couldn't push the Hokage for information. "Fine. Also, just so you know, I'm planning on removing Anko-sensei's curse mark in the next 2 days." That sent her head spinning. "You figured out how to remove it?" "Not exactly, but I have figured out Orochimaru's curse mark. Now that I know what it is, I can work on countering it. The solution should be ready in 2 days." Tsunade crossed her arms and leaned back against her seat. The brat really impressed the hell out of her. Even Jiraiya had been unable to remove Orochimaru's curse mark on his own. But that might be because, as Naruto put it, he didn't understand it at the time. But still, where did this sudden burst of inspiration come from? "What the hell, Naruto? 2 days? How long have you been working on this?" Naruto shrugged. "I didn't figure out the curse mark until last night, and I got so excited that I've been working on the solution from 3 in the morning." That statement caused her to give a narrow-eyed glare. "You shouldn't ignore your sleep like that, Naruto." But Naruto was steadfast in his defense. "Come on. You ever got excited about a medical project in your life that you couldn't sleep until you finished it? And besides, Temari already gave me grief about that. I don't need any more." Tsunade chuckled a little. He was right. She did do a few projects before which she couldn't rest without completing. Naruto was so much like his father that she shouldn't be surprised anymore, but that's exactly why she was so surprised. Minato couldn't rest his mind at all whenever he got an interesting sealing project going. She had heard through Kushina that Minato slept only 3 hours a night for a week straight to figure out the final stage of his Hiraishin. Despite not meeting him, Naruto emulated Minato so much, it was scary. The apple fell right under the tree, it seems. Moving on, it was time to address the very interesting part of Naruto's last statement. Oh? Marital troubles? Naruto gave her such a sour look she was tempted to laugh out loud, but held it in. She stole breakfast. Breakfast that I prepared for both of us. And I made pancakes. Oh? Is that all? Don't say it like that. 2 pancakes are practically nothing to me. I was starving. So you decided to eat breakfast at Ichiraku's. It wasn't a question, she just knew it. If Naruto was surprised, he didn't show it. I was hungry, so it seemed justified. The two sat in silence for a while. Despite her impatient nature, Tsunade enjoyed silences just as much as Naruto. Most of the time she was too busy in her duties as Hokage, and people just kept coming to her for one thing or another. Bachan? Tsunade broke out of her thoughts to see Naruto looking at the ground with a frown. He seemed somber. What, do you think that there will be a war? Of all the things she had been expecting, this wasn't one of them. Come again? Naruto's eyes held apprehension and resignation. Do you think there will be a shinobi world war? Over all of this mess with the Baijiu? Tsunade was about to answer in negative when she paused. Honestly, he was unclear, and that fact itself was far more unnerving. A 4th shinobi world war, against an organization that was hell-bent on collecting Baijiu from every Jinchuriki there was currently. An intelligent person would say that this organization had beef with every village that possessed a Jinchuriki, that they wouldn't target one particular village. Add on to the fact that their intelligence knew next to nothing about the end goal of Akatsuki, and it painted a nerve-wracking, horrifying picture. It was almost as if the Akatsuki wanted to go to war with the whole world. No, at this point they knew very little. The next best guess would be, they wanted to be prepared to go to war with the whole world. That would imply that their primary objective was something else. Could be something else other than war. I don't know Naruto. The thought that she could lose Naruto was the one she wanted to refuse to accept. But it was a frighteningly real possibility. Far below the surface of Konohagakure, Danzo was sitting in the headquarters of Root. His left arm, the one that wasn't bound by seals, scratched faintly at the scar on his chin in deep contemplation about his latest problem. Kabuto. He had read the report on the mission that the new Team 7 went on, and despite his iron stronghold on his emotions, he had wanted to tear the report apart. The mission had been successful, and it was all thanks to Uzumaki Naruto. It was almost surreal. The mission should have been a complete failure, and yet it was the success that threw a big wrench into his operations. No, it wasn't that he wanted the mission's leaf shinobi went on to fail. Simply put, Kabuto knew too much. Too much about Danzo and his operations, and way too much about Danzo's interactions with Orochimaru after the latter became a traitor. He was a threat to Danzo's existence, a threat that needed to be eliminated. Danzo wasn't sure why, but Kabuto had yet to talk about him. That didn't mean he was going to wait around for that. It had been more than 1 week since Uzumaki captured the former Leaf Shinobi and handed him over to Tandi. Danzo had nearly gone into a panic when he learned that Kabuto was under imprisonment at Tandi. The thought of his secrets going out in the open from the words of a spy would destroy his ambition of becoming Hokage completely. Kabuto was under heavy protection. Getting to him would be difficult, as he was being guarded by Anbu. It would have to be an assassination, a clean one. It would have to be staged such that it couldn't be traced back to Danzo. Maybe he could even stage it so that it seemed Orochimaru had Kabuto killed in order to protect his secrets, but passing it like that was not easy. For all of Orochimaru's resources, Danzo wasn't sure whether Orochimaru had assassins skilled enough for the operation. It could easily backfire if he wasn't careful, but one thing that was clear, was that no matter how he tried to pass it, Danzo was bound to become a suspect. No one else in Konoha had enough beef to have Kabuto killed, and the lack of knowledge about his past would put him under Tsunade's scrutiny. Damn Uzumaki. Danzo didn't miss the irony that despite wanting the best for his village, it was his village's successes that were giving him headaches. He wanted the Jinchuriki to be powerful, and he became powerful. Just not under his control, like he had originally wanted. But he let it pass before. The Jinchuriki was powerful, and he served the village well during the invasion 3 years ago. He was a dutiful shinobi who was loyal, but now that loyalty was causing him problems. Kabuto was a treasure mine of information that Konoha would greatly benefit from, but Danzo could not afford, at any cost, to expose his secrets in any way. There was too much work to do. Summon Ryo. Within 2 minutes, the summoned shinobi was kneeling before Danzo. Orders, Danzo-sama? Danzo stood up from his chair. He spent exactly 1 moment regretting the loss that Kabuto's death would bring to Konoha before issuing his orders. He would protect his secrets, no matter the cost. Shikamaru walked with Kuuji and Ino as they exited the graveyard. Asuma's death had hit the three of them hard, and now that he looked back on it, it was pretty stupid of him to think that his team could take Hidan and Kakuzu down on his own. All his preparations had gone to waste when Naruto blew Hidan up to pieces, but the man's death still gave him a sense of peace. He was not going to beat himself up that it just wasn't himself that did it. Asuma-sensei should be able to rest in peace now. He turned to Ino, who had a small smile of acceptance on her face. It suited her. Yeah, but we shouldn't forget that we are alive because of Naruto. He really saved our hides back there. Kuuji added as he opened a packet of chips to munch on. Ino's face took on amazement as she began talking about the Uzumaki. Oh yeah. Did you see that jutsu he used? We all saw it, Ino. Shikamaru dryly interjected. A vein throbbed in Ino's forehead. Shut up, Shikamaru. I meant, can you guys comprehend how much chakra was poured into the technique? All of us together won't be able to do it. All of a sudden, Ino stopped speaking, causing the two boys to pause and stare at her. This was a bit out of habit for her, stopping just like that. Usually, she would keep talking fast enough to outrun a hurricane, but to suddenly shut up like this was out of character. Something wrong? I just wondered if he was with you, Shikamaru, on that day, would Asuma-sensei still be alive? She looked up from the ground to see her teammates looking at her with surprise. Not shock, but surprise. Shikamaru sighed. This was too troublesome to think about. With that, he proceeded to interrupt everyone's thought process. It's no use wondering what could have been Ino. What's important is that Naruto not only helped us take out 2 S-rank criminals, thinning out Akatsuki's ranks even more, but he helped us despite being against our decision to confront them by ourselves. And he saved our asses while doing it. Given who we were against, Naruto shouldn't have gone with us at all. Shikamaru expressed, his mind going back to the fight. Naruto had fought the lion's share of the fight, all the while saving them from the lethal attacks of Kakuzu, and they had only been a little more than useless. Granted, had they tried to interfere they would only have gotten in his way, but the fact remained that Naruto was leagues above them. His fighting style wasn't limited to just taijutsu, ninjutsu, or fuinjutsu. He used them all, and he used them to great effect. He was well versed in each of them. He was a master in each of them. They on the other hand, and he found himself ashamed to admit, knew little more than their clan taijutsu and ninjutsu. Fighting against Hidan should have been the first clue for him to realize that mastering his clan jutsu was not enough. But his mind had been too supercharged with determination for avenging his sensei. His most recent fight showed him they were near flawless teamwork or not. Individually, they were nothing against S rank or even A rank. His hands formed tight fists inside his pockets. They were weak, and that was the truth. I will have to train harder. All of us. We can't afford to limit ourselves to our clan styles. We have to go beyond if we want to be able to fight alongside Naruto, instead of being in his way. Shikamaru swore to himself that he would, and help his team, get stronger than they were now. Yeah. Let's not focus on what could have been, Ino. Even Kuuji was solemn this time, foregoing his usually cheerful attitude. Shaking her head, Ino looked up with a determined gleam in her eye. We have to get stronger. We can't afford to laze around anymore. As Ino started to gain momentum in her rant, Shikamaru sighed again, but with a smile. This is going to be troublesome, but worth it. Haruto arrived in Training Ground 7, having agreed to an early morning training session with Sakura. Am I late or what? Sakura, who was in the middle of some stretches, turned to look at him with a smile. Not at all. I just came early for a bit of a warm-up. Haruto cracked his fingers and set about to do some stretches himself. If he were to come out of this training session without a broken bone, he would need everything at his disposal. Though the chances were already minuscule, he still had to try. Sakura, do you mind telling me about the previous member of this team? This Uchiha Sasuke? The question startled her a bit, but she grew resigned and her mood soured. Seeing that, he hastily backtracked. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. No, it's okay. Though I am a bit surprised that Naruto hasn't told you about him already. A frown twisted at his lips as he stretched his legs. Naruto has only mentioned it in passing, and he refuses to go in depth about the subject. He would get this strange look on his face like he regrets something. Sakura frowned even more at that. She had no idea that Naruto regretted something from that day, from that mission. Naruto thought of Sasuke as a friend, and Naruto was the only one Sasuke considered. Well, as close a person could be considered to a friend. Then he proceeded to betray the village, causing Naruto to hunt him down and bring him in. Naruto treasured the bond he had with Sasuke, and I believe that even Sasuke considered Naruto a friend, his only friend. Sasuke didn't like us from the start, but he did eventually warm up to Naruto, if just a little. She broke off, not knowing what exactly to tell him. Then Sasuke left the village, Haruto prompted with a frown. Yes. Though to him, killing his brother had been his goal from the start, ever since we became a team. Or even Kakashi-sensei and Naruto, never thought that he would go so far as to betray the village to do it, Sakura quietly revealed, clenching her fists tightly. Sasuke's betrayal didn't speak of his hatred of the leaf, but rather something more dangerous. Sasuke had demonstrated, on that day, that he would abandon anything and everything to pursue his goal. I'm not clear as to what exactly happened between them, but what I do know is that they fought, and Sasuke lost. At that time I didn't reflect on it much, but now that I do, it wasn't really a surprise given how prodigious Naruto was, learning and mastering Yondaimi's Hiraishin no Jutsu. Anyway, the point is, they had a fight and Naruto won, Sakura asserted. If Naruto managed to bring him back, why would he regret something? Or even refuse to talk about it? Truth to be told, even she didn't know. Something could have happened between them. Before Naruto left with Jiraiya-sama, she had only seen a glimpse of Sasuke before he was taken away for his punishment, and it had been unusual to see him without even a trace of anger directed at Naruto. Sasuke had been jealous of Naruto, something she couldn't see back then. He should have been furious about being defeated by Naruto, but the anger wasn't visible at all. Who knows? It was all she could say. They both mulled over their thoughts in silence. Haruto was partly annoyed. His cousin and the missing Uchiha clearly had some history. The said history was troubling his cousin, and he could do nothing to help. However, do you think that Sasuke and Naruto will meet again? Sakura blinked at the sudden change of topic. I'm not really sure. You said that Sasuke wanted to kill his brother. It was the goal he kept in mind while leaving the village. Do you think that he will return to Konoha once his goal has been accomplished? That was a deep question, and certainly not the one she knew the answer to. She told him so, and his question in return managed to almost shock her completely. Has Sasuke been placed in the bingo book yet? By the village? She gaped at him in disbelief, though a small part of her mind acknowledged the fact that he was technically correct. Sasuke was a missing nin, and hidden villages did place the names of their own shinobi who had forsaken the village, with a large bounty on their head, with specific conditions related to their capture. As she began to think about it, the more she began to question why hadn't Tsunade-sama placed Sasuke in the bingo book? She had all the reason in the world to. Sasuke deserted Konoha to join up with the most infamous traitor of the village, Orochimaru of the Sannin. She needed to start reading the bingo book of her village at least. I don't know actually. Probably not. The cracking of fingers drew her attention back to him as he cracked his neck. I think that they will eventually meet again. And most probably, it would turn out to be a fight. Sasuke is being trained by Orochimaru, right? He is one of the Sannin, and there's no way he hasn't picked up the man's tricks. Haruto's eyes were narrowed in determination. Call it a gut feeling, but I think a clash is inevitable. Naruto has gotten stronger, but no doubt Orochimaru would tell Sasuke about some of Naruto's tricks. Sakura agreed with that statement. Orochimaru had escaped from their fight, and he had no doubt gathered intel to give to Sasuke about Naruto's fighting abilities. But Naruto won't be alone in facing him. We'll be with him this time. Haruto's mouth twitched. Like we were with him last time? He shook his head and spoke before she could. Right now, Naruto has surpassed us by leagues. The only thing we would do is get in his way. All we can do is get stronger ourselves so as to not be a liability to him when the time comes to go to his aid. Then why the hell are we wasting time talking? Haruto barely had time to leap back to dodge Sakura's fist, which would no doubt have broken in cheekbones. The hell, you violent woman? Give me a warning first. A vein pulsed on Sakura's temple. Violent woman? She hissed out. Haruto winced before cursing his slip of the tongue. And they were getting along so nicely. Alright Anko-sensei. I'm ready to remove that curse mark. Naruto observed his sensei as she slowly walked into the ceiling chamber underneath the Hokage tower. Her apprehension was visible to all. This was no small event, he supposed. Anko-sensei had wanted to be rid of the mark for decades now, and today was the day. She glanced around to see who all were present for the procedure. There was Naruto obviously. She could understand the need for Tsunade-sama and Shizune, but why is he here? Her question was directed towards Haruto, who looked nervous but under her scrutiny. Naruto eased her worries by patting his cousin on the shoulder. My cousin is here because of his ability to use chakra chains. In case anything goes wrong, his chains would prove useful in containing it. Anko didn't like the sound of that. What do you mean contain? The pit in her stomach only grew at the flash of unease on Naruto's face. Anko-sensei, before we begin this procedure, I want to know whether you know anything about this seal. She shrugged her shoulders, looking a bit confused. Nothing more than you or Jiraiya-sama know. Naruto nodded to himself. That was comforting to know. Then allow me to explain to you how the mark works. I don't give a fuck about that. Anko snarled as she slashed a hand in the air. Just get it off me. Anko. Tsunade's warning seemed to calm her down, but only just. There is a reason why Naruto is telling you this. Listen to him. Once tempers were cooled sufficiently, Naruto began in almost a lecturing tone. I'll start with how the curse mark works. Orochimaru is no Fuinjutsu master, but he knows he enough to be called proficient. Jiraiya-sensei initially believed that Orochimaru created this curse mark for himself, as an added boost to his own power. He planted this mark on others to experiment, to see whether or not this mark would work for him. However, this seems to have been proven otherwise, as new information has revealed that the mark is much more than that. Naruto held up 3 fingers. The curse mark consists of 3 parts. Or to be technical, it is a sealing array comprised of 3 microarrays. The first part is something that became known to us only recently, a highly complicated storage seal for a special type of energy that is able to empower normal chakra, boosting the physical capabilities of the host by a fair margin. Their ninjutsu would become stronger as well. He folded the second finger. The third part of the array is actually a lock. It basically guards again, highly complicated storage seal that contains high amounts of this special energy. The good news is that this lock can only be opened by a special key that is in the hands of Orochimaru or one of his trusted subordinates. Evidence suggests that once unlocked, this part allows the host full access to the power of the mark. Naruto put his hand down, pausing for a moment to think about the best way to explain what the second part was. His hesitation was noted by everyone in the room, and Shizune called him out on it. Naruto-kun, you skipped a part there, Gaki. He glanced towards Anko, who was tapping her foot impatiently. No doubt, this technical lecture was not what she had in mind when she came here. What's the second part of the seal do? He sighed. There was no better way to phrase this. He simply had to tell them like it was. The second part of the seal was something that took me a while to figure out. Initially, I believed that this microarray contained his chakra, judging by the careful prodding that I made a few days ago. This matched the speculation that Jiraiya-sensei wrote down in his notes years ago. However, a recent revelation has proven it to be something else entirely. Now came the hard part. You see, in a sealing array, all the parts work together to produce the desired result. It's like a mathematical equation. All the variables must be balanced for the equation to work. The function of the second part is to empower the first microarray. It is highly reactive, as it can not only perceive negative emotions but also act upon them. Tsunade interjected at that. What proof do you have of that? Naruto nodded to her. I'm getting to it. Our studies have revealed that the mark is activated by negative emotions, which then triggered the release of the special energy. But the truth is, there is no way to connect a seal to the emotions of a person, given how chaotic and ever-changing they are. It would take more than one lifetime to map the complete scope of human emotions, and a complete mastery of Fuinjutsu to create a seal to avoid rejection of the emotion upon the mark's activation. His expression became severe. I concluded that whatever it is not Orochimaru's chakra. It simply cannot be, for it is far. A heavy silence descended upon the room as they tried to figure what Naruto was trying to tell them. Whatever it was, the idea of Orochimaru's, whatever it was, behaving intelligently inside another body did not give them comfort. Anko's fear was starting to become visible by the second, and Tsunade snapped at him. Don't keep us in suspense, out with it. What is it? Naruto released a deep sigh. Chakra has many properties, but the one thing it cannot do is act on its own. Cognitive and conscious decisions are what allow us to mold chakra. For the curse mark to perceive and react to negative emotions? This means that it can identify negative emotions, and if it can do that, then it can think on its own. The second microarray contains a piece, albeit small, of Orochimaru's soul. Anko reacted just as he had predicted. Her grasp on her emotions was completely gone, and for the first time since he met her, Anko's face showed true, naked fear. Blood drained out of her face as she began to hyperventilate. Her whole being was shaking as she finally understood the enormity of what she had been carrying with herself all these years. A trembling hand came up to cover the crook of her neck. Get it off, she whispered in panic as her movements became frantic. He was slightly alarmed to see that she began scratching the mark, almost as if the action would make it come off. Blood dripped from the intensity of her scratches, but she seemed not to notice. Get this fucking thing off me. Tsunade too had noticed, and she restrained Anko before she could do more damage. The shock of the revelation still hadn't worn off, and it was clear in her eyes as she turned to him. Again, what proof do you have? Her voice was hollow as she spoke, finding it hard to believe it could be something like that. Is it even possible? Naruto pursed his lips but nodded. It's possible, and yes, there is proof. Years ago, on the retrieval mission, I ran into one of his henchmen called Kimimaro. He was the one who revealed how Orochimaru's immortality jutsu works. Orochimaru's soul switches bodies after a certain amount of time. If he can manipulate his soul to that extent, then it's not so hard to believe that he can cut a piece of it. By now, Anko was in tears as she shook in Tsunade's arms. Please, please, get it off me. Right away. Naruto laid down the giant scroll he had brought with him and spread it open. Given that this is the very first time I'll be performing this procedure, I am unsure as to the after effects. He looked her in the eye to convey how serious he was. For all I know, you could slip into a coma from the exhaustion, but I will be free, right? Naruto blinked, but nodded. That you will be. Shizu knelt down beside him. How are you going to do this, Naruto-kun? Naruto unsealed an empty ink jar. He held it out to Tsunade and Anko. I need this to be filled with Anko-sensei's blood. Shizune winced at the quantity required. So much? Blood is a powerful medium in Fuinjutsu. Seals powered by the user's blood are comparatively more potent than those by chakra ink. The reason I need Anko-sensei's blood is that this will establish a sense of identity within the seal, Naruto explained as he waited for Anko to finish filling the jar. Here. Anko handed him the jar filled with her blood as Tsunade healed her hand. She was still shaking, but much less compared to the panic attack she had minutes ago. Won't you need a brush to draw the seals? Naruto simply smiled as he focused his chakra on the tip of his finger. Deep blue chakra immediately began glowing around it, and Anko gave a small smile. She was very familiar with his powerful chakra signature. Naruto held his finger above the ink jar, letting his chakra draw out the blood. Then he swiftly brought his hand over the scroll and began drawing the seals, the kanji glowing slightly with every stroke he made. It was with a sense of awe that everyone watched Naruto draw the seals for the next full hour. Each stroke was made with confidence and zero hesitation. His handwriting was impeccable, and Tsunade was reminded of how her grandmother had tried to teach her once, but she had shown no aptitude. Nevertheless, she had been just as odd as she was now. Naruto had practiced this seal only twice before this operation, but he was confident that there would be no mistakes. He couldn't afford them now. Finished. Naruto glanced up, finally releasing the chakra on his finger. He had used up all of Anko's blood to draw the seal. It was now time for the second part of the preparation. He glanced at Tsunade before motioning to the privacy seals. You should activate those right now. We don't want the entire village to be feeling bursts of chakra from the Hokage tower. Tsunade nodded as she pressed her hand on the wall, activating the seals. The sealing chamber was now completely blocked from the outside world. Naruto moved towards one end of the seal and pressed his palm in the center of an array shaped like a circle. All the occupants save Haruto tensed as they sensed the unmistakable feel of Baijuu chakra. Once Naruto was finished putting the sufficient amount of Kurama's chakra inside the seal glowed briefly and the kanji changed from open to close. Naruto, what the? The seal reacts to negative emotions, and Kyuubi's chakra is completely saturated with hate and anger. I will be tricking the curse mark to activate not in response to Anko-sensei's plight, but in response to the negative emotions of Kyuubi chakra. Are you ready? Anko took a deep breath and nodded resolutely. Where do you need me? Naruto motioned to the other end of the seal, where kanji were centered around a circular formation. The formation was broken up into pieces, swirls circling each other until they converged in the center. Anko removed her sandals and walked onto the scroll, sitting where Naruto told her to. She looked up when Naruto walked over to her and put his hands on his shoulders and knelt down. Anko-sensei, I don't know whether this will hurt you or not, whether this will be painless or not, but a significant part of this procedure depends on you. And me? Naruto nodded. Yes. I want you to push Orochimaru away with all the strength you have. Happy thoughts, as many as you can. I will try my utmost to pull him away from you. He hesitated, but leaned forward to place a soft kiss on her forehead. Anko froze upon the contact, not used to Naruto showing affection so openly. Naruto pulled back and gave a smile. It could probably turn out to be the most painful thing you have to do. But what doesn't kill you? He shrugged and got up, walking over to the part of the scroll he had to activate. He turned to Tsunade and Shizune to caution them to be ready, but they were both looking at him as if they wanted to squeal. Or at least, Shizune did. Tsunade looked like she wanted to break out in laughter. Rolling his eyes, he just grumbled at them to get ready and knelt down, forming the ram seal. Haruto, I want you to step in as soon as it looks like the soul fragment is trying to escape my hold. Bind it with your chains, got it? Got it. Nodding in satisfaction, he placed his hands on the seal. Let's begin. He pushed chakra into the array, watching intently as the kanji started to glow orange and spread, making their way to where Anko was sitting. The first part of the process was to activate Kurama's chakra, stirring up the necessary negative emotions. The glow reached Anko, and Naruto saw her visibly restrain herself from moving. He barked out an order. Give her something to bite on. He turned back to the seal, just as the curse mark started to activate. Perfect. The curse mark had responded to the negative emotion of Kurama's chakra. Anko's blood kept her connected to the seal, so the soul piece had been tricked into thinking that Anko was using a jutsu that utilized negative emotion. Of course, he was hoping that the soul piece would realize that it had been tricked and would offer resistance, inadvertently drawing upon the protection of the Fujihoin. Time to initiate the second part. He got up and walked over to Anko, and was pleased to see that the curse mark was pulsating, trying to break through the Fujihoin seal that was applied over it. Because of Anko's refusal to use the mark, the seal had worked well for her. Now it was time to let the monster out. The reverse order of hand signs for the evil sealing method would give him Kaihoin. He slapped his palm on the mark, and Anko screamed. Her scream was muffled by the belt she had in her mouth, which Naruto had no doubt would be in tatters by the end of the procedure. But his attention was grabbed by the foul energy that had been released by the evil release method and was coming out. Too late it sensed that the negative emotions it had responded to did not belong to Anko's, and too late it figured that it was a trap. Naruto grit his teeth as the soul began to resist, and Anko began to thrash in her place. He sent one glare to stop Tsunade from interfering, just as she was about to. Interference at this stage would prove disastrous. Orochimaru's willpower to stay attached to the host was strong, but he was literally just a fraction of his soul. His power was diluted, and Naruto's was whole. His chakra was much more powerful than the Sanin's. Slowly but surely, Naruto pulled Orochimaru away from Anko and slapped his hand connected to the chakra on another part of the seal, activating another trigger. Kurama's chakra, which he had earlier put into the seal, would power the pulling force that would tear Orochimaru's soul piece away. The foul taste lapped at his senses, and he struggled not to break his connection with the seal. The piece was disgusting in feel, to begin with, and it looked more horrendous than he had imagined. A white, twisted, squealing piece of soul vaguely looking like a snake, struggling within the grasp of Kurama's chakra connected to his hand. The soul piece had apparently realized that its connection to Anko would not ensure its survival in this. It severed all the tendrils of energy from her. It tried to latch onto Naruto, no doubt sensing the incredible life force in his chakra. Like I'd let you do that, Naruto muttered and pushed a bit of Kurama's chakra in his hands. The feel of corrosive Baijuu chakra on two ends pushed it right into the seal, getting absorbed into the part that looked just like a whirlpool. It was the whirlpools that Naruto had designed the final piece of his seal on. Whirlpools pull in everything that gets caught in them. Nearly impossible to escape from. The kanji finally stopped glowing, and Anko finally stopped screaming, collapsing onto the floor. Tsunade and Shizune immediately moved towards her, while Naruto waited to ensure that the soul piece would not escape. Only when nothing happened for over 2 minutes did he finally relax. It's over. Standing up, he walked over to Anko to inspect her neck. He couldn't stop the grin that pulled at his face when he saw that Anko's neck was bare of any mark. He had managed to remove the curse mark. How is she? Tsunade's hands were green as they hovered over Anko, but her voice was full of wonder. She's fine. Her chakra reserves have been exhausted, but she will be fine. Abruptly, she stood up and grabbed Naruto in a bear hug that caused all the air to escape his lungs. Well done, Naruto. Why yeah, he choked out. She released him and brushed his shoulders. Great job, Naruto. Time and time again you surpass my expectations of you. Even Jiraiya couldn't remove the seal. Naruto tried to play it humbly. Uro-sennin is a master, but seals drawn by a Uzumaki are just something different. That you have proved without a doubt. Naruto wiped the sheen of sweat from his brow as he watched Anko slumber. One more victory over the snake bastard. Maybe now, Anko would finally be able to sleep without feeling the burden of Orochimaru on her soul. Jiraiya was tense as he reviewed the information that had been sent to him. He had been in D country investigating Akatsuki's whereabouts. He had been trying to find out just where the organization was based, and now this drops into his hands. Looks like Naruto wasn't the only one who surpassed his master. He burnt the note with a small fire and looked out of the window. He needed to hurry back to Konoha to report this to Tsunade. As Sasuke made his way to Orochimaru's room, he mentally reflected upon what he was about to do and questioned himself whether or not this was the correct course of action. He shook his head. No use asking himself the same question again and again. Orochimaru had nothing left to give him anymore. nothing left to teach. Ever since Sasuke had joined forces with him, Orochimaru had closely monitored his progress. He quickly became the Sannin's personal favorite, which meant he had access to the custom techniques created by the Sannin himself. Sasuke was all for learning any technique he could get his hands. The more options he had in his hands during his fight with Itachi, the better. Orochimaru even used chemical and drugs to enhance Sasuke's body, increasing his physical abilities and his resistance to toxic materials. Sasuke had improved a lot since coming here, and he didn't regret leaving Konoha behind at all. But there was one thing he failed to take into account. His lips twitched at the thought of his teammate. Even when they were kids, Naruto was miles ahead of him. Now, he was strong enough to send Sasuke's master running back to his den on the verge of death. This meant that Naruto had surpassed the Snake Sannin, and most probably Jiraiya as well. The man was Naruto's master, and if the blonde's bingo book entry was right, Jiraiya was also one heck of a teacher. Sasuke didn't know whether Naruto would become a thorn in his side or not. Sasuke had trouble understanding the blonde. Naruto had beat him within an inch of his life and brought him back to the leaf. Did that mean that he meant something to the blonde, or was Naruto just fulfilling his duty to the village? What would he do should he meet the blonde again? He briefly shuddered, remembering how painful the process of sealing Naruto's Hiraishin mark had been. Orochimaru had tried many procedures, heck he even tried scraping off the skin where the seal was, leaving Sasuke in pure agony for hours. Ultimately, Orochimaru had to resort to tweaking Sasuke's curse seal. The Sannin had linked Naruto's Hiraishin marking to the cursed seal of heaven. Given how the Hiraishin marking held little more than a drop of Naruto's chakra, Orochimaru theorized that his own seal, which held his chakra and had completely merged with Sasuke's chakra, should manage to dim the sensory signature of the Hiraishin seal. In short, Naruto would have extreme difficulty in pinpointing Sasuke through the space-time jutsu. Sasuke took comfort in the fact that Naruto didn't have an instant kill over him anymore. Sasuke acknowledged this to no one, but a part of himself knew that should they fight again, Naruto would win. The blonde had a lot of raw power on his side, something which Sasuke was lacking compared to him. That, and Naruto had probably trained for more time than Sasuke. Sasuke himself had a few aces up his sleeve, but should the battle become a battle of attrition, he would lose. Which is why he believed that he needed to cover that weakness. I can't afford to be weak when facing against Itachi. He soon found himself facing the room in which his master was resting. Given how the man was coughing, it meant that he needed to change bodies soon. Orochimaru had wanted Sasuke to grow a little more so when the time came to possess him, the body would be in its prime. Sasuke was having none of that. His pride argued that this wasn't a true fight, he was fighting Orochimaru at his weakest. But if the snake had taught him anything, it was to strike when the enemy was weak. Orochimaru knew his condition was deteriorating, even more so after his fight with Naruto. He knew he had greatly underestimated the blonde in their fight. To think he was now capable of putting him on the ropes like that. His face curled into an ugly sneer. Jiraiya taught him well. Even 3 years ago, Orochimaru had seen the limitless potential that resided deep within Uzumaki Naruto. He had forgotten that in his fight, and nearly perished. But no matter, he thought, because the time to change bodies was upon him once more. Sasuke had a great darkness within him, and it delighted the Sannin. He knew that tempting Sasuke with the power to defeat his brother would work in his favor, and it had. He exploited Sasuke's hate and made him attain heights that the Uchiha would not have reached otherwise in Konoha's care. In fact, they wouldn't have allowed him to progress at all, fearing that he would go rogue once more. It was fortunate that he was able to take Sasuke back once more. He had never comprehended before this just how valuable his right-hand man had been. Tending to his every need, Orochimaru was now forced to survive with the help of mediocre assistants. Every instruction had to be given out in such a way that they had to understand completely, and it was vexing. With Kabuto, he had hardly needed to say anything. Kabuto would have known what to do during these times, but now he was forced to seek second-rate help. So lost in his thoughts he was, that he was just barely able to react to the spear of lightning that struck him through the door of the room. Crossing his arms and gritting his teeth, he shifted his arms to save his head. Lightning nature, but in this form? I've never seen anything like this before, so who is it? The answer soon came when the door was slashed open in expert strikes, revealing the very subject of his thoughts. He shouldn't have been surprised, but rage filled his entire being. How dare he? Orochimaru, you are weaker than me. Therefore, there's no longer any need for me to give you my body. Orochimaru glared at the Uchiha's betrayal and glowed. Sasuke's arrogance had never left him, and his ego had only gotten bigger. You sure have some nerve, for a mere Uchiha fledgling. If he wasn't sick right now, he would have made the Uchiha pay for this insolence. To think he was stronger than Orochimaru was the height of his arrogance. Although, I wasn't aware he could manipulate lightning with such precision. Just how much of his strength has he hidden from me? You think you had me bound with your mark, didn't you? You tempted me with power 3 years ago, when you sent your Sound 4 after me. In the end, you had only wanted a Sharingan. But you couldn't defeat Itachi, which is why you chose me. Isn't that right, Genius Sanin? Orochimaru just glared as Sasuke picked his plan apart piece by piece. His rage flared even more when he was mocked with his own title. The body he was in right now wouldn't stand much more damage, so he would have to make his move soon. But in the end, you just turned out to be an ordinary prodigy. Even the best prodigy is next to nothing in front of an Uchiha. For all his patience, Orochimaru wanted nothing more than to tear the little upstart piece by piece, but given his precarious position, he could do nothing but bide his time for an opening. He began molding the chakra for the soul transference technique. Time was of essence. You just kept hopping around the world, conducting experiments on people, all in the name of science. You killed people, without batting an eye. You have no regard for life at all. You sicken me. Throughout his monologue, Sasuke spoke in a flat tone, conveying nothing of his feelings. Just as Sasuke made to stab him, Orochimaru moved. A small blur escaped from the body's mouth, but Sasuke saw it clear as day. Turning, he saw a gigantic serpentine body composed entirely of snakes, with a hideous, horribly disfigured face that was a mix of human and snake. The only identifying features were the hair and the eyes. Sasuke smirked. Conducting experiment after experiment on yourself, and this is what you arrived at? Pathetic. Now Sasuke-kun, let me take your body. 10 minutes later, Sasuke walked out of the room fixing his robe. His work here was done. Now, it was time to make good on a promise made long ago. He needed a team, after all. Naruto lay on the ground in his home's backyard, eyes closed and limbs spread in a star position. If anyone were to try and look over their wall, they would say he was sunbathing. The truth was something else entirely. He was really bored. There were no missions currently, no weapon orders to prepare, no seal ideas to work on. Even Temari was not present in the village since she had gone to visit Gaara. This day sucks. The only good thing about today was that Anko was expected to wake up. But what was he supposed to do until then? He sighed as he got up, propping himself on his hands. Boredom was more lethal to him than Srank missing Nin, who wanted the Baijiu in his stomach. Oi Kurama. What is it? I'm bored. He could almost feel the disbelief coursing through the fox's being. What the hell do you expect me to do about it? I don't know. You got any stories to tell? Even if I did, I wouldn't waste my time in storytelling. This boredom would kill me, Kurama, and you know what happens when I die. DCH. If you have so much time to complain, how about you figure out a key to my seal? It's time to finish my training. That was, huh? Why didn't he think of that? In all of his father's notes, Naruto hadn't come across the key to the 8 trigram seal on his stomach. From an objective, or rather, a shinobi's point of view, the key would be almost invaluable. Anyone who was armed with the knowledge of Naruto's burden would have a sure chance of opening his seal and letting Kurama out. Therefore, his father had kept only one record of the seal's key, and that too was under the protection of the toads. Naruto glanced at his hand and frowned. Kurama had spoken to him about the final step of mastering his chakra. Baijiu mode, the ultimate form a Jinchuriki can use. All the power of their Baijiu would be at the host's disposal to use as they see fit. Given how Kurama was the most powerful of all, Naruto's Baijiu mode was bound to make him the most powerful Jinchuriki yet. In retrospect, he would be the first human to master the power of the Kyuubi. However, in order for that to happen, the host must be completely synchronized with their Baijiu. Otherwise, there was a risk to both of them. Naruto didn't even want to imagine how gruesome his death would be if that possibility came to pass. Of course, Naruto couldn't demand the key from the toads. Jiraiya was still acting paranoid about that. He debated for a few more moments whether or not to take the easy route and just pester Jiraiya until he gave in, but he decided otherwise. With Jiraiya, it might take too long to persuade him to hand over the key to Naruto. The sooner he can sync up with Kurama, the better. Besides, this might prove to be a challenge. He rushed inside his study and opened up his notebooks, losing himself in the intricate Uzumaki seals. He lost the track of time, and so wasn't aware that 5 hours had already gone by with him working on the key for the Hakifun. He sat back on the chair, running a hand through his hair. Hakifun was a complicated seal, its key was bound to be equally complicated. Man, the Uzumaki really were something. The sheer number of variables that had to be balanced in order to successfully open the lock of the seal on his stomach was unbelievable. And that was excluding the contingencies that his father had built both into the seal and the key. Once this key was completed, There was no way he could fit it on a normal ceiling scroll. It was quite fortunate for him that Minato had left at least the notes for Haki-Fun. Just how long were you planning on sitting in there? Naruto raised his head from his notes to see Anko, in her usual outfit, standing in the door of his study. He gave her a cheerful smile as he stood up. "Sensei," he faltered when all he received was a raised eyebrow. What was the matter? Wasn't her awakening a happy occasion? Seemingly reading his thoughts, Anko answered him. "I woke up an hour ago, and imagine my surprise when you didn't come to see me at the hospital. I waited there for an entire hour and you still didn't come. How dare you?" He hurriedly raised his hands in defense. Hold up. I would have totally come, but I wasn't aware." That seemed like the wrong thing to say. "Brat. Aren't you supposed to be a sensor? You know I can only sense when I switch to sensory mode." No sooner had he gotten out his excuse, Anko had grabbed him by his collar and pulled him to her. "This isn't the time for you to make excuses." Damn, why was he saying all the wrong things today? Just as it seemed Anko would drag him out to fight, she released his collar and pulled him into a one-armed hug. But given how he towered over her now, it was significantly less uncomfortable. "It's time to celebrate my freedom, Naruto." Naruto simply stared at her, dumbfounded, as she did a full 180. Even after training with her for years, he was unable to understand what went on inside her mind. Nonetheless, he took it in stride and smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Damn right it is. We'll start with not Dango. How dare you? After all that I taught you, I will never abandon ramen in favor of a mere snack. As if wet noodles could be compared to Dango. You take that back, sensei." Never. By the end of the brief verbal spar, Naruto and Anko were glaring at each other so heatedly that anyone who might have seen them would have thought that the next moment would involve a fight breaking out. Anko was the first to break, a snicker escaping from behind her lips. After the first one, she just couldn't hold them back and broke out in laughter. "Ha ha ha ha. Oh man. I never felt so free in my life before. No longer do I have to keep looking out for that bastard to take control of me." Naruto just snorted, but he smiled reassuringly. "I would never let Orochimaru of all people get to you." He huffed out in surprise when Anko grabbed him in a tight hug, but he hugged her back. "Thank you, Naruto. You have no idea how much this means to me." Naruto just rubbed her back. "It's all right. I'm just glad I was able to help." He released her from the hug and jovially exclaimed. "Now, let's celebrate your freedom with raw dango." Damn it. After witnessing Anko eat ridiculous amounts of dango at his expense yet again, Naruto retreated to his study for the night. He plopped down in his chair, gazing at the various scrolls, notebooks, and ink spots on his table. He groaned in exhaustion as his head hit the back of his chair. Naruto's eyes flickered to his notes. The creation, or rather, recreation of the ki was progressing quite smoothly. He had managed to decode nearly 40% of the ki, and at the rate with which he was going, he would be able to decode the rest of the ki in the next week. Even now, he marveled at the masterpiece his father had created. Like most would assume, creating a key to a seal would be like a locksmith creating a key for a lock, but as the masses had demonstrated, people had less than no knowledge of how the sealing arts worked. The Haki-Fun was a lock, but looking at it from a mathematical perspective, the seal was like a solution. Creating a key to that would be trying to find out the original question, word for word, going backwards, integrating a derivative again and again until he arrived at the question. It was a tedious process, but the feeling of satisfaction that came when he solved a particularly difficult equation was worth it. No use trying to solve this right now. It's time for sleep anyways. As he trudged his way to his room, he thought about how he would spend his day tomorrow. Working on the key was fine, but he had to get some training in as well. But who to ask? Kakashi would be a good choice, as would be Yamato. But just how long would their training last? Naruto needed something stimulating, something that would get his blood pumping. But what? Kakashi alone couldn't give him much of a fight, not Yamato, not Team 10, not Lee, not Neji, not Tenten, not. His thoughts skidded to a break. No one alone could give him much of a fight, so why not all of them together? A battle royale sounds like a nice idea for tomorrow's training. The next day, Naruto sent shadow clones to members of all the teams he was friends with. He even sent one to Anko, for she knew exactly how to make everyone run away from her. The shadow clones were to inform everyone of a joint training session between the members of all teams. Of course, Naruto didn't expect anyone except maybe Shikamaru to figure out what really was going on given how he worded the message. Joint training session involving members from all the currently operating teams. Ha! Their faces will be worth seeing once they figure out what the training session will be. Naruto looked up from his notes to see the clock on the wall of the study. The training session was supposed to take place at 9, and currently it was 8:30. He could spend 25 more minutes on his current project before heading to the field. This training session wouldn't just benefit him, and he wondered why Jonin-sensei didn't make their Jinan do anything like this. The best way to keep yourself on your toes was to fight an opponent who outclasses you, or fight superior numbers by yourself. Naruto had heard of the brawls when the Jonin of the village occasionally went wild in their training sessions with each other. And this would benefit everyone. Teammate wasn't one for heavy combat, thanks to Kurenai. Kiba was the heavy hitter of the team, Shino was the strategist, and Hinata's Byakugan was mostly used for reconnaissance. While she may have gotten over her insecurity issues in the last 3 years, her pacifism was still quite prevalent. Kurenai's specialty was genjutsu, but besides that she didn't have anything else. Kiba was always eager to prove he was the top dog, Hinata was hesitant to use Juken techniques against fellow comrades, and Shino relied too much on his bugs. Now that he thought about it, all the clan heirs relied way too much on clan techniques. Which is what makes them predictable, I guess. No one would expect a Hyuga to use anything other than their clan techniques. Team 9 was a very competent team. A weapons specialist and 3 powerful taijutsu specialists. Sadly, no one on the team knew any elemental ninjutsu. Tenten could have tried to learn elemental manipulation but chose to focus on expanding her skill with weapons. Neji was a Hyuga. Lee was limited due to his circumstances and very susceptible to genjutsu now that he thought about it. Guy was a sorely taijutsu-focused fighter and like any other, would face problems with competent long-distance fighters like Deidara. Team 10 was made up of clan heirs. Enough said. The point was, his friends don't really seem to be used to fighting outside their comfort zones. And as a good friend and comrade, it was his duty to improve their perspective on life. 25 minutes passed quickly and he put his pen down, cracking his knuckles. He could already feel himself tremble in excitement. This will be fun. He disappeared from the room so fast that one would have only heard a whisper of wind displacement. Arriving at Training Ground 21, a nice and large open field with little space to hide, his grin widened even further when he saw that everyone was there. All the Chunin from Team 7, Team 8, Team 9 and Neji, and Team 10. Anko was there too, and she seemed to be doing a great job of intimidating the weak-minded. So glad to see that everyone believes in arriving early. All the heads turned to him. Surprisingly, it was Kiba who greeted him first. Naruto, why have you called us here? My shadow clones have already told you. It's a joint training session, more like a spar if you will, between the members of all currently active teams. Neji stepped forward. So this will be each team fighting against each team? Naruto tisked, wagging his finger. Wrong. This will be each shinobi, fighting against each shinobi. This will be a battle royale, where you will only fight for yourself. Shikamaru just rubbed his ear with his pinky and sighed his catchphrase. What a drag, and just who gave you this idea, you troublesome bastard? Naruto shrugged. I've heard about some Jonin brawls. Now, before we get started, rules. You cannot pair up with anyone obviously, but a momentary assist is allowed. This training session has a very specific purpose. He paused to confirm that everyone was listening. Fighting against overwhelming odds is the best way for you to adapt. One-on-one is good, but when you face 12 people on your own, all of them being your enemies, you do anything you can to survive. Your body is forced to adapt faster, your mind is forced to work beyond its limits to ensure survival. Fighting a superior opponent is always a sure way to get stronger. You may not win, but you will learn. Rule number 2, no playing a hero. That means if your own teammate is in front of you, you better sock him in the mouth rather than letting him go. He gave a pointed look to Hinata, who wore a worried frown. Rule number 3, anything aside from killing or crippling blows goes. The aim is to push your limits, and work on your weaknesses. Any questions? Sakura raised a hand. How many opponents are we to fight at a time? Naruto smirked. You could all 12 at once if you want, but I'm sure it won't come to that. Anything else? It was Tenten who asked next. But how can anyone defeat you? Your Hiraishin is too fast. Then I won't use Hiraishin. As if I needed to be faster than you guys. Another thing, the first one to drop out of the fight will pay for everyone's meal at yakiniku. Any more questions? No? Then begin. Naruto began by blowing up in an intense explosion, one that caused everybody to jump back. Lee seemed ecstatic. Yosh. A type of training where we increase our youthfulness by a meeting of the fists. Naruto-kun is truly a. Something snaked around his leg before he could react and Lee found himself thrown violently into Kuji, both of them flying a good dozen feet before violently crashing on the ground. Haruto grinned as he brought his chains back, then extended them again in a wide arc, sending his fellow Chunin flying back. But while everyone retreated from him, Neji charged forward fearlessly. "Your chains are chakra constructs and therefore shall fall to my Juken," Neji observed, systematically attacking the links in the chains as they came towards him. The chains fell apart piece by piece as they failed to withstand the precise onslaught, until Neji was right in Haruto's guard. They began to fight and Neji began gaining ground, and just as he was about to put Haruto down, he was forced to abandon his assault to block the attack from behind. Konoha Senpu. Neji's hastily erected guard went down easily and he found himself pushed into Haruto. Lee knew better than to stand and talk after the initial attack, so he pressed his advantage. But even he could not complete his attack as a hail of kunai descended from the sky, forcing all three of them to jump apart and evade. Tenten grinned as she closed distance between them, a sword in one hand and kunai in another. "You better block these or you will get some nasty cuts." Nikuden Sensha. The huge rotating ball that was Kuji made his way towards them frighteningly fast, threatening to crush all of them beneath him. The Akimichi was fired up at the thought of eating a full meal at his favorite restaurant. All of them jumped out of the way, and that's when Tenten found herself immobilized. Shikamaru wasted no time in making her throw her kunai at all four of them. Kuji's and Neji's rotation blocked everything, while Haruto covered himself in chains and Lee deflected the kunai with pure speed. Shikamaru cut his losses and jumped away, leaving them facing each other. They remained unmoving for several seconds, waiting for one person to move. In their minds, a counterattack was a better option than an attack. All of them moved in the same instant. Kuji enlarged his hand, Neji and Lee slipped into their stances and Tenten took out her explosive tags. Shanaro. No one accounted for Sakura jumping right into their middle and punching the ground, and they definitely didn't count on her destroying the field around her in a 20-meter radius. Neji and Lee got out just in time, as did Haruto, but Tenten and Kuji were not so lucky. An errant boulder to the face knocked Kuji to the ground, and the impact from Sakura's punch sent Tenten flying into a tree, knocking her unconscious. All three Chunin collectively sweat. Best to avoid getting hit from her. Haruto made the first move again, physically grabbing Lee from his flak jacket and throwing him right at Sakura. Lee, like Sakura, was only momentarily surprised but quickly adjusted his body to deliver the maximum power in his strike. Both their fists connected, creating a shockwave that traveled a small distance before dissipating. On the other side of the field, Naruto was having the time of his life. He was jumping and weaving between attacks, occasionally throwing shuriken and a kunai. He saw Shikamaru cursing and jumping away, as Anko wouldn't allow him to sit still for a moment to activate his jutsu. "Troublesome woman, if I can just activate my jutsu," Shikamaru complained as he put some distance between him and the snakes. "Ha! See, this is the problem with you clan heirs. You literally don't have anything in your arsenal besides your clan jutsu." Anko was downright gleeful that she got to torture green chunin such as these. Any elemental jutsu would give you some space. Fire, wind, water, lightning, or even earth. How you made chunin without learning a single elemental jutsu is beyond me. He knew that. The problem was he knew that and he couldn't do anything about it yet. Nature transformation training was hard and consumed too much time, and with Asuma's death, very few people were around for him to ask to train him. There were other chunin, experienced chunin maybe, with whom he could. Pay attention, slacker. Damn. If only Shino could step up his attacks, he might get some breathing room. On the other side of the field, Naruto was impressed by Hinata's show of ruthlessness. The girl was initially hesitant, but she squared up her shoulders and took Ino out with just one strike. After Sakura and Kuji headed to the other end of the field, the fight divided between him, Shino, Shikamaru, Kiba, Hinata, and Anko. Kiba and Akamaru had first tried to take him out with clan jutsu, but Naruto had quickly knocked the dog out of the fight with a well-placed strike to the head. From then on, it became pretty clear that Naruto had hit the bullseye in his hypothesis about clan heirs. A formidable bunch, but their weaknesses were obvious. "If you're just going to keep using that clan jutsu of yours on me, Kiba, just don't. It didn't work 3 years ago and it won't work now. Come on, man, don't you have anything else? How the hell did you make Chunin?" Naruto grumbled, easily dodging the slash at his chest. Kiba only snarled in response. The Inuzuka was far too busy being enraged at his partner's knockout to stop and think. Naruto easily exploited the openings in his guard, catching a slash in his hand, deflecting another, and slamming his palm into his throat. Kiba went down coughing and wheezing, releasing a pained whine as Naruto lifted him up by his hair. "Next time, try to at least look like you're thinking." A punch to the gut and Kiba was out of the spar. Naruto felt a small amount of pity for his friend. A throat palm strike followed by a solid punch to the gut was a painful way to go down. Haki Kushu. But Naruto was moving before she even finished announcing the attack. A flash step saw him standing to her far right. Hinata quickly closed the distance between them and began to try and hit him with a Juken strike. Naruto whistled mentally. Hinata was going straight for his vitals, points that would drop him with just one strike. The girl had come far in her confidence issues. A sensory check revealed Anko coming out of the forest, having incapacitated Shikamaru and Shino. Just for the sake of chaos, she threw a fireball their way, no doubt advancing right behind it. Naruto and Hinata dodged it pretty easily, and Naruto found himself alone as Anko decided to test Hinata. He was basically separated from all the fighting for the moment. Perfect. Katen, Gurayuka no Jutsu. All the fighting momentarily paused as three giant heads of a dragon raced towards them, threatening to swallow them whole. Dodging was out of the question given how quickly they closed the distance, and how wide they were spread. Kaiten, Neji and Hinata both spun in place, dissipating two of the dragon heads with bright explosions. The others piggybacked on their defense, allowing the third one to pass by without hitting anything. Once they stopped spinning in place, they saw Naruto standing at only 10 feet from them, hands clapped together. Suten, Suishu ha! Everyone warily backed up as water started swirling in the air around Naruto, the quantity increasing by the second until the water exploded from the top like a fountain. Hundreds of liters of water were rushing towards them with the force of a waterfall. Everyone jumped up and let the initial onslaught pass underneath them, landing on the small pond that Naruto had managed to form. They knew that the water was entirely Naruto's territory, so they had to get off fast. But the blonde still wasn't done. 3 seals were all he needed. Suten, Suryudan no Jutsu. An enormous dragon formed out of the water, giving out a gurgling roar. Haruto gulped down his nervousness. That bastard's going overboard. Naruto smirked to himself as he directed the dragon towards the others. The dragon is not what you should be worried about. Katen, Ryuka no Jutsu. Of course, a fire came out of nowhere and hit the dragon head-on, generating a large amount of steam. Naruto didn't wait to see who it was, the voice already gave it away. Although he cursed himself for not sensing him sooner. The others also saw the steam as a chance to put some distance between each other. What the hell? Who was that? All the exclamations were drowned by the extremely loud exclamation, "Long time no see." The steam gradually cleared to show none other than Jiraiya, standing there with his palms facing outwards and arms at an awkward angle, clearly one of his kabuki poses. From now on, this brawl belongs to none other than the Toad Mountain Sage, aka the sensational novelist, Jiraiya-sama. A pause hung in the air after Jiraiya completed his dance, no doubt waiting on their reactions. Naruto could understand why they were unable to react. Jiraiya was a little, too much at times. His personality was so bright that it shone over others completely, leaving them slightly blinded and caught off guard. After the shock wore off, came the wariness. Everyone was aware what caliber of shinobi Jiraiya was, and if he had decided to join in on their spar, fighting between themselves seemed small compared to what they now had to face. Bring it on. Most watched incredulously as Naruto went to engage Jiraiya without a shred of fear on his face. After a moment, Sakura copied her teammate and spinning in a roundhouse kick, she caught Lee right in his face, the force of the kick knocking him out. That was the cue for everyone else to resume, and once more, chaos ensued. "You're back early," Naruto commented as he blocked a kick and countered with a low spin. Jiraiya spun with the force of the kick and landed on his feet. "I had some urgent reporting to do. And I see that you removed Anko's mark." He then followed up with a Rasengan, which Naruto countered with his own. The two forces clashed, but then Naruto grinned. A second Naruto burst from the ground, fist connecting with Jiraiya's chin and sending him painfully to the ground. The original pounced on the opening, but Jiraiya quickly retreated. He was about to use a jutsu to blow away the kid, but one voice stopped him. That same voice froze everyone in their place. "What is going on here?" The smooth but powerful voice of the goddamn Hokage flew across the field, her demeanor radiating annoyance at the destruction caused. Naruto and Jiraiya stood side by side, the former looking at the ground in guilt and shame while the latter just smirked at the Hokage. Tsunade's face was set in a scowl that would have sent any other shinobi running in the opposite direction. "What were you thinking?" Sensing the question being directed at him, Naruto answered. "I thought that training session like that would benefit everyone. Jonin brawls happen all the time, and fighting in a battle royale is a really good form of training. Uro-sennin said so." "Don't try to pin this on me, brat." "Enough." Both shut up after feeling Tsunade's killer intent. Tsunade just sighed as she rubbed her brow. "Naruto, the next time you have such a training session, warn me beforehand so I can have medical staff on standby." "Jiraiya, you should have done the responsible thing and stopped the spar right then." Jiraiya scoffed. "Stopped it? The kids were having so much fun beating each other up. You should have seen your own apprentice." She looked happier than a kid in a toy store. "And why should I let them have all the fun? You should let them let loose like this once in every while. Tsunade. Tsunade slammed her hands on her desk. Not when they destroy a training ground like this. Do you think restoring a training ground is an easy task? And you are the last person who I'll go to for advice on matters like this. Jiraiya wisely kept shut, knowing that Tsunade's temper was nearing the breaking point. At such times it wasn't wise to test it. Tsunade took a few deep breaths to calm and sit back down. Alright Jiraiya, back to important business. Why are you back so early? I've received important information from my contacts. Orochimaru is dead. A pin-drop silence washed over the office. Naruto gave a sharp look to Jiraiya, while Tsunade seemed shocked at hearing about her former teammate's death. Rightfully so, he mused. Orochimaru was one of the Sannin, an extremely powerful shinobi. More slippery than anyone he knew, and ridiculously clever. For him to have been killed, was a jarring shock to the system. Wait. When you say dead, do you mean he was killed? By none other than Uchiha Sasuke? That was another bomb drop. Sasuke killed his own master? Granted, Orochimaru was a deplorable, can't even call him human anymore, but for what reason did Sasuke kill him? 3 years ago, it became pretty clear that Orochimaru wanted the coveted Sharingan. But Orochimaru targeted Sasuke because he knew taking it from Itachi was next to impossible. Over the course of 3 years, Orochimaru must have treated Sasuke like getting a meal ready for a banquet. He must have wanted to assimilate Sasuke when he was at his strongest. His recent encounter with Naruto must have pushed his current body to the limit, which meant that he was close to switching bodies at the time of their meeting. He must have wanted to switch. He muttered in contemplation. Tsunade looked towards him with a frown. What do you mean? Naruto folded his hands. When I fought Orochimaru at the bridge, I must have pushed his current body to the limit. If Sasuke has killed him now, then the only reason could be that Orochimaru must have finally wanted to switch bodies with him. Of course, Sasuke wouldn't have wanted to give his body over without having his taste of revenge. Jiraiya nodded. That's what I thought as well. Orochimaru must have been pretty weak at the time Sasuke managed to kill him. Because from what Naruto has told me, Sasuke couldn't have become stronger than Orochimaru in just 1.5 years. Tsunade raised an eyebrow and pointed at Naruto. Why not? Naruto surpassed you early, didn't he? And the Uchiha brat has the Sharingan. That's because Naruto is a genius. One like Minato, Itachi, and Kakashi. Sasuke at best is a fast learner. A prodigy, who isn't that uncommon. Anything he's taught, he would pick it up faster than the average shinobi. Orochimaru would have undoubtedly taught him a lot, but Sasuke's learning curve isn't equitable to Naruto's. He also hasn't trained for 3 whole years like Naruto has. I would, on a rough estimate, put Sasuke around Jonin level right now if he was Chunin level when Orochimaru broke him out. Tsunade pursed her lips, tapping her finger on the table. What does this mean for us though? Her eyes flickered to the other blonde in the room. What do you think, Naruto? Naruto looked to the side, trying to think. What this means for us? I say nothing, as of right now. Tsunade was intrigued by the choice of his answer. Why nothing? Naruto shrugged. We all know what Sasuke's goal is. Now that he's free of Orochimaru, his next stop would be his brother. Which means he'll either hunt for him, or go after the organization his brother works for. Akatsuki won't hand over such a valuable member though. Exactly, which is why the former is much more possible. Either way, Sasuke doesn't have anything to do with us right now. For all intents and purposes, he is a missing nin of Konoha right now, which begs the question, why haven't you put him in the bingo book yet? Tsunade raised an eyebrow at him. I don't know if you are aware, but hidden villages don't put Jinan in their bingo books. It looks bad on us that a Jinan left the village to become a missing nin. Naruto frowned. Well, Sasuke was a Chunin level threat when I fought him if you don't count the power of the curse mark. Also, him joining up with Orochimaru warrants a bingo book entry if you ask me. Are you sure? With me putting a price on your friend's head? Naruto scoffed. He has a funny way of showing his friendship. Right now, he's a traitor to the village. If we cross paths, I'll follow the orders posted in his entry. Tsunade looked at the blonde, trying to find some hole in his argument. From what she understood, Naruto and Sasuke were somewhat like friends before she came to the village. Sakura told her that Naruto was the only one Sasuke had allowed himself to get close to. Now, for Naruto to say that he will treat Sasuke like any other missing nin, it was, not exactly surprising. Naruto was pragmatic, that much she knew. He lived in the reality, with just the tiniest pinch of idealism. Tsunade could respect how Naruto wasn't willing to make Sasuke his immediate priority now that there was finally an open channel to get him back. This meant Naruto understood that Konoha had bigger priorities right now, bigger than his wayward friend. Just like a leader. At this rate, I just might be able to pass the hat on in a year or so." Tsunade gave a sharp nod. "Fine. I believe it's about time I put that brat's name in the bingo book then. He will no longer be protected by anonymity. Naruto, I will put him down as an A-rank threat to be captured on sight. Is that fine with you?" "You don't need to ask me what is fine. I will go along with whatever you have in mind," Naruto assured her. "Good. My orders still stand. Currently, Konoha is responsible for taking out 4 Akatsuki members out of the total 9. Which means only 5 remain. Out of that, we already know 2 of them, so logically, Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame will be our next targets." "Naruto, your team's success rate with the Akatsuki elimination missions has been 4 for 4 so far, so I'll be sending out your team in a few days. Make sure they're ready." "Dismissed." "Hi Hokage-sama." Tsunade nodded in approval and turned to Jiraiya. Whatever she was about to say to him was interrupted by a knock on the door. The door revealed a ninja from the Tande department looking frantic. "Urgent news Hokage-sama. Yakashi Kabuto was assassinated." Tsunade was up on her feet in an instant. "What?" In a dark cave, the Akatsuki were having a meeting with their remaining members. Pain, the leader of the organization with unique eyes, was addressing news to the rest of them. With 4 members gone, only 5 of them remained. "Orochimaru has been killed. Uchiha Sasuke was the one who did the deed." The leader specifically looked towards Itachi as he said the last part, but as usual, Itachi didn't grace anyone with a reaction. "Oh, looks like your little brother has grown quite a bit, hasn't he Itachi-san? Still, it looks like that we've been spared the trouble. I would have loved to see him die as much as I would have loved to see the zombie duo die. Hidan and Kakuzu were our comrades Kisame." "Don't say such things." "Apologies. But they were done in by Konoha no Sato. The squad with Kyuubi no Jinchuriki and Hatake Kakashi." Tobi added in on this. "That squad is pretty powerful. That Uzumaki Naruto was the one who took out Deidara-senpai, and even Hidan and Kakuzu-senpai." "Indeed. Kyuubi no Jinchuriki has grown quite powerful, so we will focus our attention on him the last, as was intended." "Itachi and Kisame, be careful. I assume that Konoha will now focus its attention on you too, given you are the only known members remaining at this point of time." As you say, Leader-sama. "Also, Konoha is not the only one who will be setting their sights on you. Zetsu has informed me that Uchiha Sasuke is assembling a team. You might be his next target." "Itachi." Everyone except Tobi, dismissed. "Tobi, I have your next assignment." Sasuke stood with Hugo, Suigetsu, and Karen on top of a cliff as it rained. Sasuke would have never thought that he would assemble a team by himself, but he gave credit of his actions to his maturity. 1.5 years with Orochimaru had taught him that even a Sannin like Orochimaru cannot do everything alone, which is why he had assistants like Kabuto. Sasuke had given careful thought over the course of his training as to which members would constitute his team. He had promised Suigetsu a while ago that he would free him, and he made good on that. Plus, Suigetsu would make a valuable ally, given his decent kenjutsu skills and Kekkei Genkai from the Hozuki clan. Hugo was a surprise. Sasuke had expected little more than a killing machine. But Hugo surprised him by begging him to kill Hugo, who knew the monster was so innocent at heart. Hugo was aware of his own problem and begged Sasuke to kill him so he could be free of his mindless rage. All Sasuke had to do to dissuade Hugo from suicide was to tell him that he will keep Hugo from killing the others. That, and he was Kimimura's will. Sasuke wasn't planning on the latter working so well, but if Hugo's respect for the former Kaguya was this much, then Sasuke had no problem banking on it. Karen was an important member of this team. Sasuke was sure that Orochimaru didn't mean to make him aware of Karen's abilities, but they were dead useful. Sasuke didn't know why, but Karen's chakra was capable of healing wounds at an accelerated rate. All one had to do was bite her and suck in her chakra. Sasuke couldn't imagine just how many times Karen must have been bitten, and it was not a pleasant experience for her. But he needed her on this team if he wanted to survive. Let's go. It was finally time to track down his brother and finish him for good. Naruto exited Tsunade's office, his mind working furiously. If Sasuke had managed to kill Orochimaru, even though weakened, it was safe to say that the Uchiha now posed a credible threat to any shinobi in the field. Now that his name was about to be entered in the bingo book, people were bound to go after him. His Sharingan would have undoubtedly gotten more powerful since their last meeting, and depending on what tricks Sasuke had in his arsenal now, in addition to the power of the cursed seal, Sasuke could potentially take on any shinobi below S rank and win. He paused and stepped aside as a shinobi nearly barreled into him in his rush to get to the Hokage's office. Raising an eyebrow, he wondered if he should be concerned. Urgent news Hokage-sama. Yakashi Kabuto has been assassinated. Naruto's mind screeched to a halt. Kabuto had been killed. That shouldn't have been possible, seeing as he was placed under the heaviest guard at Dandi. Anbu constantly guarded the place 24/7, and it should have been impossible to sneak by them. Kabuto was a high-value prisoner, and a treasure trove of information. He had been brought to Konoha so that the Tandi could suck him dry of all the information he had bottled inside. His capture was one of the biggest successes Konoha had had when it came to the Snake Sanin. Deciding to think upon this later, Naruto proceeded to his home. He had a mission to prepare for. Tsunade nearly trembled with rage as she inspected the scene inside Tandi with Jiraiya, her Anbu and Ibiki. The latter kneeled behind her, head bowed. He himself was angry that someone had managed to sneak into his department and kill his prisoner, without him knowing about it until the job was done. For a branch of Anbu that was proud of their impeccable record when it came to managing prisoners, this was completely unacceptable. Ibiki. Hokage-sama, how did this happen? And under your watch too? Tsunade didn't scream, but she didn't need to. The entire place was saturated with her killing intent, enough to make even the Anbu on site sweat beneath their masks. I take full responsibility, Hokage-sama. I assure you that my department will investigate this matter thoroughly, and we won't rest until that you will, Ibiki. You have no choice in the matter. You will not only investigate the breach in security, but you will build it back from scratch. Who are you? The commander of Anbu stepped forward. Unlike the entirety of Anbu force whose masks were based on animals, the commander wore the mask of a mythical beast. Not even the Anbu knew the identity of their commander, except for the Hokage. The Anbu commander also never made public appearances because their existence was hidden from even the Jonin. Nobody but the Anbu forces and the Hokage was to know of their existence. Of course, it was assumed, and undeniably so, that the commander was a cage-level shinobi and nothing less. It was a requirement, after all. Not only that, but the commander was a person who knew more secrets than even the Hokage. Hi Hokage-sama. The voice that came through the mask was distorted in order to protect the identity of the commander. Not standard issue. I want to know who was behind this debacle, and I want to know it ASAP. I also want to know why the Anbu couldn't find the assassin. I want no stone left unturned. Am I clear? Crystal clear, Hokage-sama. Ryu knew better than to disappoint his leader. His job wasn't to ask questions, but to obey each and every order assigned to him. And he would deliver. This was a black mark on the Anbu, and it wouldn't be tolerated until it was scrubbed clean. His Anbu were in for remedial training sessions, and painful ones at that. To think Anbu under his watch were not able to detect the assassin until it was too late, such incompetence was unacceptable. Heads would roll if he even heard a whisper of a mole within his organization. Ibiki, we need new security. You will be working with Jiraiya to create new seal arrays for security. Any questions? Ibiki's eyes flickered to Jiraiya's for just a moment before he responded. I mean no disrespect to Jiraiya-sama, but word has it that Uzumaki Naruto has surpassed you in Fuinjutsu. Wouldn't it be better to have him on board as well? My apprentice would not be a part of this operation, Ibiki. Yes, it is true that he is a sealing master of a caliber that has surpassed me. His mastery of the Hiraishin no Jutsu is a solid testament to that. But he has an S-rank mission coming up, so I think it's better if we leave him to his preparations. Jiraiya answered with folded arms. Ibiki gave a quick bow. Hi, Jiraiya-sama. As Ibiki and Ryu left to start their respective investigations, Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. Who do you think it could be? Jiraiya pursed his lips. I don't have anything concrete right now, and let's not talk about this in the open. Tsunade scowled and started to walk back to the office. Damn it. We were so close to having him reveal Orochimaru's plans. We already have enough information about other villages that they would throw a riot if they were to know what we know about them. A little more time and we could have gotten some real information. Jiraiya sighed as he followed her. Time is our greatest enemy, Tsunade. However, I believe that Kabuto's intel wouldn't matter much now, given that Orochimaru is dead. I'll have to think more on this. There's got to be something we can use. Jiraiya nodded as a small smile crossed his face. While you go and sulk, I'll head over to Naruto's for a chat. I want to see what he managed to come up with regarding Anko's cursed mark so far. Tsunade frowned in confusion but then realized. Ah, you don't know, do you? Tsunade let a smirk cross her face, feeling a tiny bit proud that for once she knew something that Jiraiya didn't. Naruto already removed the mark from Anko. Jiraiya's head whirled around to stare at her. What? Tsunade made a sound of fake surprise. Oh, you didn't know? A twitch developed under Jiraiya's eye as he stared at her, her eyes full of mirth. And he didn't tell me. I'm sure he'll tell you over dinner. Now that I think about it, I think I'll come along with you. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow at her. Don't you have to brood over the mess made by Tangi? Tsunade groaned, rolling her neck upwards. Right now, I could use a break. Needless to say, Naruto was surprised when both the Sannin showed up at his door. "Yo Naruto." The blonde Jonin gave them both a weird look but stepped aside, nonetheless. 5 minutes later, all three of them were sitting inside in the living room drinking tea. Jiraiya released a sigh after finishing his cup. "I'm glad you remember how I like my tea, Naruto." Naruto shrugged it off with modesty. "I'm your student, aren't I?" Tsunade nudged her former teammate. "I don't remember you liking this particular blend of tea, Jiraiya." Jiraiya shrugged, not telling her anything. Naruto shook his head, but then turned to Tsunade. "So, what brings you to my home?" Tsunade set down her cup. "Just visiting." "Can't we do even that?" "So it's got nothing to do with Kabuto's death?" He deadpanned at the sharp looks he received. Tsunade was outright glaring at him. "Where did you hear that?" "Where do you think?" "Tell your," he made air quotes, "office shinobi to tell you your messages discreetly, not announce them to the whole tower." Tsunade cursed under her breath while Jiraiya snickered. "Never did like those office shinobi anyway. Nothing but a bunch of lazy idiots." Naruto folded his arms. "So, how did an assassin make it past all the security in Tandi? I thought the Anbu were supposed to be the best of the best." "Anbu are looking into that. That's all you need to know right now." Naruto nodded, contemplating mentally just how someone managed to get past more than half a dozen Anbu without getting caught. It wasn't until he remembered how he used to break into Anbu for stealth practice that it hit him. The weight of how easily he would sneak inside the headquarters. Back then it never struck him that his success meant there was a very big hole in their security. "And I've asked Jiraiya to work with Ibiki to design a new set of security seals." Naruto drummed his fingers on his leg. "Do you need any help?" Tsunade shook her head. "No need. Just concentrate on preparing for your mission." "All right. At least tell me you've got suspects." Tsunade rubbed her forehead tiredly. "Nothing concrete yet." Naruto tilted his head. "There has to be something. It can't be Orochimaru, for we know the man is dead. And we can rule out any other of his subordinates, for they shouldn't be smart enough to plan an operation like this." Jiraiya lifted an eyebrow challengingly. "Why not?" "Because if there was a subordinate of Orochimaru who has the spine to plan and execute his master's assassination, all to protect secrets, right inside one of the big 5 villages, we would have known. And an assassin that is better than our Anbu? Shinobi like that don't go unnoticed by the others. While we're on that, it can't be any of the other 4 villages either." Naruto speculated. "And why not?" "There could be a possibility that the others got the wind of our source of information. Or that they knew that Kabuto had dirt on them." Tsunade challenged him. Naruto shook his finger at her. "Kabuto has proven himself to be a master in infiltration. I doubt the others even knew about him. Heck, we didn't know until we fought him and Orochimaru together. If the others knew just how important Kabuto was to Orochimaru, they would have put in effort sooner to get rid of him or better, capture him for their own sake. Because nuke nin or not, Orochimaru has pissed off nearly every shinobi village in the world. They would be trying to get rid of him as well, but they just don't put in as much effort as we do. Suna is our ally, and they didn't know about our reconnaissance mission. We can rule them out." Iwa and Kumo are out as well. "I know for a fact that no one saw us capturing Kabuto, and even if they did, I doubt they saw him as a person of interest." Kiri is keeping itself on the down low, as they're still recovering from their civil war. They wouldn't want a mess on their hands this soon. The smaller villages wouldn't dare infiltrate the Land of Fire, much less Konoha, unless they believe they have what it takes to challenge us in a war. So that leave us with. Jiraiya didn't show it, but at the moment he was very proud of Naruto. He had systematically cut down the suspect list one by one, all backed up with solid logic. Jiraiya hadn't just trained Naruto in combat, but he also taught the blonde how to gather information, how to use the information accordingly, how to work with the information he already has, and make logical deductions. He taught Naruto how to work with his spy network too, just in case he needed to in the future. For years, Jiraiya had been gathering information on other nations and their villages as part of his work as a spy master. He had made a lot of notes on how they worked, what weak spots they had, what kind of bargaining chips could be used, etc. And now, all that studying was being put to good use. Of course, Jiraiya had already narrowed down the suspects in his own mental list. He let Naruto speculate to see whether the blonde would arrive at the same conclusion as he did. Naruto pursed his lips as he considered the last option on the suspect list. It seemed very unlikely to him, but all the other possibilities had been eliminated. Given that no other nation or village has the resources or the motive to go after Kabuto, this leaves us with Konoha. Tsunade's eyes narrowed dangerously. "What are you trying to say?" Naruto nodded, knowing that she was thinking the same thing. "I'm saying that there is a possibility that this could be an inside job." There was only one person in Konoha who could be considered shady, even by shinobi standards, But even Tsunade was hesitant. "Do you mean Danzo? Sure, he ran route, but I don't think even he would go that far to kill a POI to Konoha. He would know better. Kabuto was more useful to us alive than dead." Naruto shrugged and spread his hands. "Why do people have other people killed? Some do it out of revenge, some do it for the sake of theft of an important item, but most people do it because they feel threatened." Kabuto probably knew something about the skeletons in Danzo's closet, and Danzo knew this too. So it would stand to reason that he could have had Kabuto killed in order to protect his secrets, but it's all speculation at this point. If Tsunade was still holding her glass, Naruto was sure it would have shattered due to the strength behind the fist that she was making. Even Jiraiya had discreetly scooted away a little. Naruto might have said that he was just speculating, but saying it out loud really made sense to him that Danzo was the best possibility. Of course, he had no evidence, but Danzo was too good for that. The man had been a shinobi for as long as the Sun Daime and had a very dark reputation. Tsunade nodded to herself. Naruto's speculations made sense, even if he didn't have the proof to back them up. His speculation of Danzo's motive lined up with what she knew about the man, and he also had Root Ninja working for him. It was possible that he sent one of them disguised as a regular Anbu to perform the kill. "You make very good points, Naruto. I'll look into the possibility." She was going to have his ass dragged to her first thing in the morning. And given how chummy Danzo was with Homura and Koharu, that made them suspects by association. On the side, this mess actually gave her a pretty good reason to investigate into the elders as well. Maybe if she was lucky, she could find enough evidence to boot them out. "Actually, Hokage-sama, I have a request if you don't mind." "Oh?" "I want access to Uchiha Itachi's file." Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Why?" Naruto raised an eyebrow back. "To prepare for the mission." "What else?" Tsunade contemplated his statement for a moment before she stood up. "Come by the office tomorrow morning and we'll talk." "Thanks for the tea and good night, Naruto." Naruto stood up as well, a little confused. "Not the answer I was hoping for, but see you tomorrow I guess." Jiraiya turned back and winked at him. "Don't worry, Naruto. She's just in a bad mood." "Yeah, I can understand why," Naruto dryly replied. He saw them jump away and close the door with a sigh. It seemed that Temari wouldn't be coming home tonight after all. "Looks like it's Uchiha's turn now. I say it's about time." Naruto's head jerked up at Kurama's sudden voice. "You're awake? That's novel." "Ha. It's been a while since you've done anything interesting." "Why the hell should I be awake when your daily routine would only bore me to sleep?" "It's not boring. It's important." "Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference." Naruto huffed as he proceeded to the bedroom. "Sometimes it's hard to tell that you're a centuries-old creature with the way you act. Human affairs hold little interest to me. But the Uchiha, it's personal when it comes to them." "Out of curiosity, do you hate all of them?" "There is only one person that deserves my complete hatred, and that is Uchiha Madara. I can understand why, but others are plain irritating